What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the CrownHoops Podcast. We are on to episode number 52 now. My name is Jordan Daly. With me this week, we got Stacey Collier, Ben Okazawa, and a special guest, 8-year NBA veteran, Jumaine Jones. Welcome to the podcast, man. We're excited to have you.
And I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about. So we'll get right into it with a quick introduction so people can get to know you as a NBA player, and I'm sure you're also an NBA fan as well. So kind of started off, do you have a favorite team? Obviously, you played for a lot of different teams, but do you have a team that you tend to cheer for? Obviously, your alma mater, UGA, obviously is a big team, but do you have an NBA team you cheer for?
Well, I'm pretty much a NBA players fan. So, I kind of follow individuals. But if it was a team that, I would watch night in and night out, it would probably be the Philadelphia 76ers. And the reason for that is, because that's where, I had most joy, actually. Most people know that being able to play in the finals. So I kind of feel, that was the most success I've had in the NBA as far as wins and being, to play in the finals. So I kind of lean towards the 76ers.
That's really interesting. I find it that you said you follow players more than teams. We had Craig Smith on last week, and he said the same thing. So, I mean, once you play for teams, it must be hard to kind of pick a favorite, right?
You're right.
Yeah, but I mean, if you said Boston, I would have been a little bit more happy, obviously.
No.
Here
That's
we
the
go.
last pick. That's the last. That's at the
Here
bottom.
we
of the
go.
list.
They give me crap for it every week.
I already know.
So we got Boston guys here.
Yes, sir. Straight out of Boston. We got Boston, Toronto, and LA all represented right now.
All right.
So do you have some favorite players that you like, that you're following, current, all time?
Well, most of the guys that played during my time, I pretty much keep up with them. And to be honest with you, man, the newer guys, I wouldn't be able to tell you about any of them. I watched the guys that I played against and, that was around in the league when I was still around. So obviously I'm a really, really big fan of LeBron James on and off the court. It's hard not to, like a guy like LeBron. I always tell people, if you don't like LeBron, you're a hater.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. You should say that, Jordan.
I was a LeBron hater, but my on that once someone stops you in the Eastern Conference Finals so many times, it just gets to you after a while, man.
I guess that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Some people don't even have a reason.
Oh, it's all like on the court. So it was the same thing with Kobe when he played. It's like I hated playing against. Obviously, I didn't play against him. I hated when the Celtics played against him because he'd always kill us. He'd roast us. LeBron did the same thing. I'm so glad he's on the West Coast now. I don't really have to hate him as much anymore. It's great.
Right.
But off the court, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Everything he's done with the school and all that, I think it's outstanding.
Right.
Do you have like a favorite NBA moment, whether one you were a part of or one that you witnessed, anything like that?
Well, I just actually spoke about it, man. Being a 21-year-old kid, from Cocoa, Florida, no one ever could have told me that I would be that guy at 21 years old starting in the NBA Finals, you know what I mean, against, the Los Angeles Lakers when you were playing against Shaquille O'Neal in his prime and Kobe Bryant in his prime, to have the whole world watching you. At that young age, at 21 years old, and there's a lot of people that never got that opportunity to play in the NBA Finals. I got to say that was definitely the highlight of my career to be able to, to be a part of that.
Yeah, there's an epic picture of you guarding Kobe in the finals with both the finals patches on the jerseys. I think that's so cool. But kind of, you mentioned it, you kind of played in like the prime years of the NBA where, you got the back end of Jordan's career. You played against Kobe, LeBron, pretty much all the stars in the NBA scene in a very, very long time. You got, to go against them, play with them in some aspect. Who are some of your favorite teammates that you played with and some of the best guys to compete against?
Being a competitor, man, I like to compete against everybody, to be honest. No, it was a joy every single night you stepped out on the court for me. Because I love the game so much, just to go out every single night to compete against somebody, because most of the time that I went out, I had to guard guys that can easily put up 50 points. So every night, especially at the three position, man, there was no nights off. So every night you had to be ready. As far as my teammates, man, I had two teammates that I really enjoyed my time with. One of them was Allen Iverson, was an excellent teammate, and the reason being is because I played on 6 different teams and played with all stars, and no one did the things that Allen Iverson did. A lot of people looked at him and said that he was one of those guys that was selfish, but he was one of those guys that stood up for his teammates. A lot of people didn't understand why him and Larry Brown got into it so much, but it was mainly because his teammates that was complaining about certain things that Larry Brown didn't want to really change, him being an older, stern coach. So when Allen Iverson used to hear us, because basketball is not equal opportunity. Like, I can't be the guy to go say anything to Larry Brown, but Allen Iverson can because he fills up the seats. You know what I mean? So he was the guy that kind of stood up for the team whenever they felt a way about things that was going on the court or even off the court. He was the guy that spoke up for you. He was the guy in the games. If you won or lost, he was the guy that's telling his teammates how much he loved them and, saying that he wouldn't change his teammates for the world. I mean, to hear that from the best player, one of the top players in the league, and do the things that he does night in and night out, players appreciate that because most players that are in position to do that, they don't. And that's one of my reasons why he's one of my favorite teammates. And my second guy is Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom is just one of those guys that you gotta love him. He's so unselfish. He's one of the guys that don't need the basketball. So I looked up to him so much more on the court because he, at the end of the night, he still got 17, 11, and 5, 6 assists, and you never even see him touch the basketball hardly. So to be able to do that at your size and be so athletic, I always looked at him as being the teammate that everybody would want to play with.
Okay, and one thing I find interesting is you also got the chance to play alongside Kobe Bryant for I think 2 seasons, right? 1 season, 2 seasons.
One season.
1 season. So obviously we saw a couple months ago, we saw the Last Dance documentary. We saw how Jordan was as a teammate. How was Kobe as a teammate? Was he anything comparable to that, or was he? Yeah, I'll let you take it away on that.
Man, he was exactly like what you seen. he wanted the best for his teammates. I mean, like, he was gonna try to get the best out of you because every day at practice he was gonna get the best. You was gonna get the best of Kobe. The Kobe that you seen in games, you was gonna see that same Kobe at practice, and he went that hard because he wanted to set an example. Like I want perfection. I'm trying to win a championship night in and night out. And he wants you to feel the same way. And he was that guy that was going to push you and try to get you one of those guys that was kind of laid back. Well, that's not what Kobe likes. He's definitely going to push your buttons to try to get you on edge, and be competitive like he was. And he was definitely like Michael Jordan in so many ways. It's funny because Kobe was one of those guys that I didn't really care for before I played with him until I played with him to really more understand him. Because I used to not like Kobe for the reason that because I'm a big Jordan fan. I didn't like him simply because he was trying to be like Mike. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But then, when I actually had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with the guy, the first thing I asked him, I was like, man, what do you think about people saying that you're trying to be like Mike? And he laughed, and he was like, man, I just laugh at that because, like, why not try to be like the greatest player that ever played the game? Like, why not? And he gave me a whole different perspective on how he, explained why he wanted to be like Mike. Like, he's the greatest guy that played this game. Why wouldn't I want to model myself after this guy? He did everything right on the court. I even studied his interviews. He was just perfect during interviews. And I was thinking about it, like, man, he's absolutely right. Like, why not want to be like Mike? So it gave me a whole different perspective, man. It was just great being around greatness, to be honest, for an entire season.
Yeah, awesome. And I wanted to ask you just real quick, because, I mean, soft like Sherman. When he called his teammates in a Lakers practice, he said, "You're soft like Sherman." That's like one of my favorite, my favorite quotes I've ever heard from Kobe. So I just wanted to ask you. I mean, that was super creative trash talk. Do you remember any like creative quotes like when he was trash talking you guys during practice or opponents during games?
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. Kobe, to be honest, man, Kobe didn't really respect many players unless you earned that respect from him. And it even came times that, I was at practice, I would lose respect for players for how players used to allow him to talk to them. You know what I mean? So it was crazy, man. But I tell you a funny story. To me, I was like, man, Kobe, like, I don't understand it, man. You the only superstar I ever seen that come to practice and practice hard as you practice, like you in the game. And I was like, why is that? And he was like, Jumaine, let me tell you something, man. He said, when I come in here and practice like I practice, the reason being because I don't want anybody in this practice to actually think that they're going to be able to get a shot up in the game. So I'm going to be able to practice just like I play.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got a question. Speaking on Kobe and Allen Iverson, you played with Allen Iverson towards the beginning of your career and Kobe towards the back end, and then you expand your game overseas. How did their leadership style impact you personally to where you get to expand your game, you get to play in the NBA and these other leagues as long as you had?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't just say just those guys because I learned a whole lot from different guys. Obviously, you learn a lot of stuff from Allen Iverson. Like he gonna play every game like his last. You know what I mean? So that's just something you pick up from him. With Kobe, his work ethic was like impeccable. Like I've never seen anybody work as hard as this guy. Like not even close. You know what I mean? Like I'm that guy to go into practice 1 hour early. He's drenched in sweat before I even get in there, and he's staying afterwards. So, I mean, I was even looking at him to be like, man, like I don't even want to be that good if that's how much work I got to put in. But I mean, you learn so much from different players. I really give kudos to my high school coach because when I was in high school, man, he used to always, like, I was so athletic. People don't even understand. I had like a 40-inch vertical hunger, so all I wanted to do was dunk. And, in my 10th grade year, man, he used to hold practices where I couldn't dunk. Like if you dunk, everybody's getting on the line. So, because he wanted me to expand my game, he's like, Jumaine, you're not going to be able to do that in college. Guys are just as good as you are, just as athletic. And if you want to be able to go to this next level and be successful, you're going to have to expand your game. And from that day, man, I learned how to do other things, through him and trusting the process that he had for me. And to be able to, and it's funny because I was a shooter, all through high school and college, and people never knew that till later on in my career because I was so athletic. All I wanted to do was dunk. So I always worked on a lot of parts of my game, and I was able to last in the league so long because I was able to adjust my game to different situations that I was in. Because if a lot of people remember, when I went to University of Georgia, I led the SEC in scoring. And I was a scorer. I thought the 76ers drafted me just to come in and help Allen Iverson score. So when I came in, the first day of practice, all I was doing was scoring. Larry Brown comes to me like, listen here, Jumaine, if you want to play for me, you got to find something else to do because we got a little guy on our team who's going to shoot 50 times a night. And he was talking about Allen Iverson. So then from that point on, I had to adjust myself to be able to adapt to certain situations. So and I take my hat off to my coach to for having me expand my game to be able to do multiple things. So that's how I was able to survive my 8 years in the league. And then overseas it was so much easier because I was playing the four. I played the three throughout the NBA, and then to go overseas, now I'm at the four. I'm like, man, no four can stay in front of me. So the game got a lot easier to me. And then, once the athleticism goes, I was blessed to be able to play with coaches like, Larry Brown, Rudy Tomjanovich, some Hall of Fame coaches, and picking up a lot of things from them, once you get older, you put all of that stuff together. And, I was pretty much coaching the teams when I was over in Europe. You know what I mean? Like, I was running the practices. Like, this is what we need. Like, I need 2 scores. You know what I mean? I need 2 20-point scores. We're going to be competing for a championship every year. So, I just adapted my game. I learned more and more each year. I was always coachable. I always willing to learn more about the game. I had to learn how to be professional. Just a lot that came in, in different places. Because if you go overseas with the wrong attitude, you'll really be sent home early. A lot of NBA guys go over there and don't survive. And the reason being because they feel like they don't supposed to be there and they're better than a lot of the guys over there. But basketball is basketball, and you got to respect it as that. And to be able to survive as long as I did, you definitely got to respect the game.
What was your preparation like, knowing that you was gonna start in the NBA Finals against the Lakers of all teams? Like, I know that you had just got the word, so like, what was that like? What was going through your mind? What was like the emotions?
And I tell people this all the time, not even in the NBA Finals, man. Every single game, I was nervous. Mm. Every game I ever played, I was always nervous in the beginning of the game. I was one of those guys that had to go get a rebound or foul somebody or do something out on the court for me to get back in suit. Like, okay, I'm cool now. No matter what it was, I felt like I had to get come. So, I was so hyped, just to hear my name called in the NBA Finals. Like, I had to adjust to, like, okay, man, you can't get too hyped before this game. You're going to need all this energy when the game starts. I'm 21 years old. I'm excited, man. All my family, calling me, talking about they see me on the TV. Everybody that I know is watching the game. It's the finals. Everybody watched the finals. So for me, the adjustment was just to be able to relax and just concentrate simply on the game and not think about anything else outside of that, especially being 21 years old.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just wondering personally, I mean, obviously you spent the beginning of your career in Philadelphia, but for a player like yourself, who's kind of in between cities, 2 seasons in one franchise, 2 seasons in another, what's sort of the impact? Because I know, man, change is never easy. So what's sort of the impact and what's that experience like just moving around?
Well, you know what, man, I was blessed more than some, because most of the times that I moved, it was like during the off season. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like I was being, moved during the season, and, you got to adapt to a new place, a new system during the mid season. So I was blessed to be able to do that. And when you talk about, adapting to different places, man, it's easy to do because, if you play AAU basketball, you travel all over the world in the summertime playing. So, I mean, that was just something that we was accustomed to doing, from high school. I played with Atlanta Celtics, one of the top AAU programs in the world, where all summer we was traveling in different cities. So you kind of get accustomed to that at a young age, and just basketball. That's why I say I was blessed, because I could see it being difficult for a lot of people when you're being traded during the middle of a season, where you have to change teams, coaches, you know what I mean, trying to find a different place. So that can be difficult. So I was just blessed not being traded during the season.
Continuing on kind of with that thought process, after you got out of the NBA and kind of the sport of basketball, you kind of shifted your focus. You became an advocate for mental health. You're now working with a program called Mindful Sport and Performance, working on kind of bringing awareness to mental health in sports. Do you want to talk about kind of your experience with that and your experience with mental health in the NBA? I don't think a lot of people understand that, famous people, celebrities, professional athletes, I don't think people understand that stuff like that happens to everyone. Money is not everything. You know what I mean? So you want to talk on that a little bit?
You know what, man, I'm such a big advocate of mental health, man, because a lot of things that I experienced throughout my life that, I had to learn that it was mental health issues. You know what I mean? I had to learn that once I got older. I look back on things now, like, from the day that I got drafted, man, it was hell on me. It was too much for me. I was just one of those guys. I was never moved by money. All I ever want to do is have a dream of being in the NBA. You know, I was going through so much, you know, with family, with finances, because, you know, my rookie year, I was making $650,000. You know, for me at 19 years old being drafted, I thought I was rich. I come from low, you know, the most money any of my family ever seen was like income tax time. You know what I mean? So I come from a very poor, you know, poor family. So we didn't really have much. So for me to get that, a whole lot came down on me financially, you know, with family, friends, and everybody else that was surrounding me, because I'm looked at as that NBA player, and it was too much on me because I'm wondering why everything is changing around me. I just couldn't understand because I wasn't that way. I didn't get raised that way. I even see like friends, you know, I was always understanding that, you know, people that didn't know me, that was outside of the game of basketball, treating me like Jumaine Jones, a basketball player. But when it came to a point where your friends and your family start treating you like that instead of the Jumaine Jones that you grew up with, it becomes it becomes tough on you, because then you're wondering why. You know what I mean? And then, you know, you're playing 4 or 5 games out of the week, and, you know, things like that going through your head, but you really can't really have time to even feel bad about that. Like, you got to go prepare and try to perform at your highest level, and with all this other stuff that's going on in your mind. You know what I mean? Finances. Like, I don't even know anything about, I didn't even know anything about taxes. Like I'm a 19-year-old kid. They didn't teach us that in college, you know, anything about that. And who's going to teach me that in my family? You know what I mean? I got 16 aunties and uncles. Half of them dropped out of middle school, and the rest dropped out, and like most of them dropped out in high school. So who's going to educate me, help me educate on this? You know what I mean? So it's just a lot that, you know, from my upbringing that I wasn't educated on, for a 19-year-old kid to be thrown into the NBA. With Wolves, that was a whole lot that was coming down on me. I had to try to choose and do a lot of stuff on my own. I felt like I was in the world by myself at 19 years old. It was the highlight of my life to get drafted, to be able to travel the world, but it was a whole lot of stuff that I had to carry from city to city. And basketball was pretty much something that I used to be able to veer away from a lot of that stuff. So that's why it was so big for me. It was so tough on me once I retired, because I didn't have that anymore. I didn't have basketball to be able to get a lot of stuff off of me. Um, After my 4th year in the NBA, man, I had no money at all. You know, that was hard to go through that process, because my heart was so big. When I got drafted, I didn't buy myself anything. I just wanted to make everybody else smile. That was how my heart was. I always wanted to make everybody happy. At the end of my 4th year, I didn't have a dime, because I had given everybody that asked, I was giving. And it became another another process for me when, you know, my 5th year, I'm realizing, okay, that's it. I'm not giving anybody else any money. Now you start losing friends and family, and they're telling you that you've changed. That's another tough thing that you got to deal with. How are you losing family that you done grew up with all this time because you decided, they're telling you changed, but I'm growing up. And I know I got kids that I got to look out for. I got a family now, and they're telling me I changed. That's hurtful. That's something that's going to be on your mind, but I still got to go out here and perform at a high level. And I can't tell them, hey, I'm going through this with my family. Hey, I'm going through this with, you know, my relationship at home. It's always something that I was going through. So the 3 years, I went through a deep depression after basketball ended for me. So that's why I'm such a big advocate to be able to reach out to a lot of athletes, to be able, because I went through so much. I could sit here and talk for 2 or 3 weeks about a lot of mental health issues that I experienced through my time playing basketball. So I just want to be that person, to be able to be open about my experiences. Hopefully that a lot of people can, listen to a lot of things that I have to say and be more open, because you can't help a lot of people unless, you know, you're open to talk about it. Because a lot of things that sit into you, man, that's just killing you. It's killing you when you're sitting on a lot of stuff. Not just for me sitting here having a conversation right now, it's therapeutic for me. You know what I mean? Like, I love to sit back and talk about things so people can understand. Like, it's just because you're making money, you're still going through a whole lot of stuff, and money doesn't cure. Money doesn't cure a whole lot of things. So I like to get out and try to let people know that it's okay to go and ask for help. It took me a long time to be able to ask for that. I'm still going through a lot right now. You know, yes, I've come a long way. I'm proud of where I am now. But for me, I just feel like I want to keep getting better each and every day. And the thing is, you know, a good I got good people around me that, you know, they check on me all the time. I check on them. We hold each other accountable for a lot of things that we do. And that's what you need when you're going through that, because once that ball starts bouncing, it's hard. So I'm happy now that I actually found something that I'm more passionate about than I was with basketball, and helping people to get through this and to be able to talk about it, man. I'm just happy about where I am now.
So you actually started up. I don't know if you started up, but you're working with a program now called Mindful Sport and Performance. What's some of the stuff that you focus on with them, and some of the things you guys work on?
Well, we got so many different legs with the main part of it is the mental health part. We have a youth program where we go out and pretty much use just basketball for a platform. You get people in there, you get the kids in there to be able to talk, because I like to also talk to kids about other opportunities, because everybody's not going to make the NBA. It's a 1% chance that kids going to make the NBA. It's only 450 NBA players every year, and they're going in and out. It's not that even many retired NBA players at this point. Like, you got to be very elite. So what I try to talk to the youth about is letting them know that there's a lot of other opportunities around the game of basketball. If you love the game of basketball like I do, there's a lot of opportunities. People don't even know the mascot makes six figures. You know what I mean? The mascot makes six figures. You can be an agent. You can be a commentator. If you like it that much, ball boys make a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so much stuff that's around the game. So we try to make the kids aware of that, so that they don't focus in just on basketball. And there's other opportunities other than that, because that 1% just like hitting the lottery. And we try to stop a lot of things while they're young, give them opportunities to think about other things other than that, just to stop the mental health start in that aspect for trying to be an athlete at a high level.
Yeah, and I've got another question here, but first of all, I just wanted to say, like, it's a huge stigma around mental health for athletes and mental health for men as well, too. And even just like therapy and getting help in general for guys, especially, again. So, man, thanks for the work that you're doing. It's definitely really important. But even along that same line, I just wanted to ask, as a professional athlete getting injured, what's that impact like? Maybe just not even on your mental health, but just on life in general and your career.
Well, I was very fortunate throughout my career, man. I never had any real serious injuries, but I tell you what, when I signed with Boston Celtics, I signed a 3-year deal there. And, I was so pumped about the reason I signed there, because Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker was there at the time. So I was like, I think that's a great opportunity for me to go there, and I'll be making the playoffs. I had just left Cleveland from not making any playoffs those 2 years. So I wanted to go there to make a better name for myself, where I can be able to make more money. And I went there, and I didn't tear it. I sprained my hamstring, and I went from, rehabbing that, worked hard to get back so I can get back to playing. And it was maybe 2 days, that I had started practicing, and I did the same injury to the other hamstring. So I was pretty much out pretty much the whole season. And then, that was tough on me to sit there and watch my teammates practice every single day. Like, I felt like I wasn't a part of the team. It seemed like nobody really cares once you're hurt. You know what I mean? Like, you're just going through the process. You're sitting here watching practice where, you want to be out there, but physically you can't be. You just feel like you're in the world by yourself because nobody really understands injuries. You know, you go through a funk. It was so tough on me that year, man, because I'm that person, like, I'd rather be practicing than be rehabbing. You know what I mean? So just for that, being out of the game, you know, a game that you love, and you're sitting there mentally, you know, you think you got to do everything you can and hoping you can piece things back quickly, and it just doesn't work like that when you got certain injuries. Some injuries just take time. And, you know, I wasn't built for taking away time from the game because I was a gym rat and I always wanted to be out there. So that was very tough on me.
All right. So moving on, we had some questions sent in to us for you from our Twitter account. So we'll kind of rapid fire those off. This one's from @Jad M Barack 7. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that. I'm so sorry. But he had a question about your overseas experience, and I'm going to butcher another pronunciation of something. He wanted to know what your experience was like playing in Lebanon for Sagasi. I don't know if I said that right.
Hey man, I tell you what, man, it's funny story about that, man. I was this is like my first year overseas, I think it was. Yeah, this is my first year overseas. I was in Italy. I was playing in Italy all year, and it was just a lot of stuff that was going on in Italy at that time. I think you know, I think I had got like two payments from this Italian team in Naples, man, and then I didn't receive another check after that. So I was sitting there thinking like, well, I got to go find somewhere else to play so I can, you know, make some money. And this team in Lebanon called me, and my agent hit me like, man, what do you think about going to Lebanon? So I'm sitting there thinking like, Lebanon, like, man, everything I see on the news about Lebanon, like, bro, I don't know about going over there. So he was like, man, there's nothing like that, man. Let me call and make sure everything's gonna be okay. And then, you know, I'll call you back. So he calls around. He's like, man, listen, man, you know, everything's gonna be okay. You know, nothing's gonna go on over there. You know, teams are still playing. So I ended up signing, you know, to go over there to play. It was during the playoffs too. So I go over there. As soon as I land, they shut the airports down. They shut the airports down, and they're in war with I don't even know who it was, but it was so crazy for me because I had never experienced anything like that. Everywhere I went, it was like tanks, and it was smoke everywhere where people were just shooting bombs everywhere. And the people were just walking around like nothing was going on, like it was like normal. And I'm sitting here like, I'm so scared because I had learned, like, you know, everywhere you travel, you normally check in to the American embassy, you know, and then they'll let you know if anything goes on. They're going to send you emails and let you know. So I'm reading these things. They telling me what areas I shouldn't be going to and where I should be. So I'm sitting here like, man, this is crazy. Like, why is people just still walking around here like this is just normal stuff that's going on here? And I can hear bombs going off and nobody's acting like there's anything wrong. So, man, I was scared to death over there in Lebanon. I couldn't leave because they shut the airports down. So that was probably the that was tough. That was tough on me playing in Lebanon, man. I had an excellent time being over there because I had a guy that pretty much looked out for the Americans over there. So he kind of made me feel more comfortable about it, man. But I used to always tell my friends back home, I was like, man, y'all think it's thugs over here, man. Y'all go to Lebanon. Let me see how many of y'all are real thugs.
Yeah, what's it kind of like adjusting to life overseas? Like, how does that kind of change your outlook on life, seeing how different things are in different countries compared to the U.S.?
Man, I tell you, man, my experience over there, I loved it, man. Other than the Lebanon thing, man, everything else was great, man. I like, but I do tell you one thing, like, you never really appreciate being American until you travel the world. You know, because me, it's big. It was big for me to do the things that I did because I never wanted to travel the country. I'm like, man, I'm American, but to be able to go experience different cultures, to be able to see so many different places. I was very fortunate, man. I enjoyed every experience. I loved Italy. I loved Israel. Like every country that I went to, I experienced something different. I experienced different cultures. I did experience different foods. It was tough on me when I first went over there because my first year I was in Italy and like nobody was talking to me. I was the only American on the team. So I'm sitting there for 2 weeks. Every time we went out to eat, like it's like I'm there alone. I got like 12, 13 other players all speaking in Italian. I don't know any Italian. And nobody's even trying to talk to me. So that was tough for me those 2 weeks. I called my agent up. I say, listen here, man, you need to let them know that they need to get another American in here. I'm going home. So they was like, so I think it was like 2 days later they got another American in there because they were scared that I was gonna leave, which I was, because I was like, there's no way I can do this all year. You know what I mean? I was booked to be there for 10 months. And so they brought in this other American. Soon as this American come in, everybody on the team started speaking English to him. So I'm sitting here like, y'all speak English? And it's like, yeah, we speak English. I was like, man, listen, man, I sat here for 2 whole weeks and nobody spoke English to me. And then one of my really good friends, still a good friend of mine to this day, named Simone Flamini, he told me, he said, man, you got to understand, man, you played 8 years in the NBA and actually played. Like nobody ever been on a team. Everybody was just scared to even have a conversation with you. Like everybody, like I was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, yeah, man. Like everybody was petrified to say anything to you. I said, did I appear one of those guys that was a butthead or just mean to everybody? They was like, no, they just never had anybody your caliber. 8 years in the NBA, nobody has that kind of player coming to their team. And you were so humble, like everybody was just scared of the fact that just because you was in the NBA, I was like, man, that's cool. I said, that's cool though, man. But I'm still friends with all of those guys on that team. So that was a great experience, man. I enjoyed traveling the world over there. My experience overseas was a lot better, than being here, to be honest, man. I still love it. I still talk about me moving over there maybe when I turn 50. I love traveling over there.
That's awesome.
This question right here is from Matt Huff, NBA. Which player had the highest basketball IQ, like during your time?
Oh man, that's easy. That's easy. I know y'all see my shirt, man. I know y'all. Maybe y'all only see Kobe, but that's me next to him.
That's awesome.
There you go.
But man, I tell you what, man. Kobe Bryant basketball IQ, man, was insane, man. I'll give you a story, man, where like this was something that like I was sitting there in awe still. Like I couldn't understand. Like I never seen anybody do it before. We were playing in a game and we were down 3. And Rudy Tomjanovich was our coach at the time, and he drew up a play. And Kobe looked at it and was like, he took the board, erased everything that Rudy had drew up, and he was like, no, this is what we're going to do. Jumaine, back screen here. I'm going to do this. You screen for me here. I'm going to come off of here, and I'm going to shoot the 3, and then we're going to go into overtime, and then we're going to win. And, all the players sitting in here, because this doesn't happen at all where a player does this. So everybody's looking around like, man, what is Rudy gonna say? So Rudy is looking around and he's like, well, all right. So, and all of us like, all right. So then everybody's like, well, what happened? I say, man, exactly what he said. He went up there, he came up there, he hit the 3, and then we won in overtime. And I was like, man, the guy, like, he just came off that on the fly. Like the guy, when it comes to X's and O's and picking his spots on the basketball court, he was a genius. He was a perfectionist. Like, anytime I came into practice, an hour early, he was deep. He was drenched in sweat. He would always be like, Jumaine, come here, man. If I do this right here, how would you guard? And I tell him how I would guard it. And he would be like, that's exactly what I thought you was going to do. And then I'll do this. Like he was a perfectionist like that, where he always wanted to counter to every move that he had. And when it came to X and O, he knew team plays before they was even going to run it. So when it came to when you're talking about players, nobody was like Kobe Bryant when it came to basketball IQ.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, man, just because every kid, every hooper when they're a kid dreams of getting drafted into the NBA. So as a first round draft pick, can you tell us what your experience was like on draft night?
Ooh, man, it was tough on me on draft night, man, because I was I had left school early. I had left University of Georgia after 2 years. So, every mock draft had me being drafted in the lottery. I was invited to the draft and everything. So they only invited the guys that was going to make the lottery to the draft. So that experience was tough on me, man. I didn't think it was going to go the way it did because Cleveland told me, like, listen, if Sean Marion goes to Phoenix at 9, we're going to draft you at 11. So Sean Marion got drafted at 9, and Cleveland drafted Trajan Langdon, who nobody expected to get drafted in the first round. Everybody was wondering, everybody was shocked, like, where did this come from? And it was so tough on me because I had only worked out for the lottery teams. So now I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, who's going to draft me now? Because I haven't worked out for any of these teams. And luckily, the thing that happened where I had worked out in Philadelphia, ended up going to one of the 76ers practices and watched them practice and actually had a conversation with Larry Brown for like an hour. And from that day, man, my agent was like, man, I don't know what you said or did with Larry Brown, man, but he's been trying to move up just so that he can draft you in the lottery. Because he know that's the only chance that he's gonna get. So luckily, I had a good, conversation with Larry Brown. He ended up working a deal out with the Atlanta Hawks, where they could draft me and they can do a deal to trade me that same night. But it was tough on me, man. All I was doing was looking at this agent like, man, you told me I was gonna be picked, a lottery pick, man. What am I gonna do now? And I was in there so nervous, man, because I was thinking like, man, I left school early, and I'm not even gonna get drafted in the first round. And he was looking like, man, Jumaine, relax, you're gonna get in there. It was tough on me. I was sweating bullets that night because I was so concerned about if I was gonna be drafted in the first round or not. So to finally be able to hear my name at the 27th pick, man, it was crazy that night because nobody knew after that where I was gonna go. So that was tough on me. But then I found out later on the reason why I dropped in the draft is because I have sickle cell trait, and teams were thinking that I had sickle cell, which is totally different. So that was one of the reason why I dropped in the draft. And I was like, man, that was a tough night for me right there, man.
Yeah, that's a pretty terrible mistake on their part, but
right.
because you expected to go to Cleveland at that pick, and you Trajan Langdon got picked instead there. Did you kind of have Cleveland games marked off on your calendar and like a bit of a chip on your shoulder when you went up against that team and him especially before you ended up going there?
Well, you're any athlete that any athlete, especially a professional athlete, man, you try to use anything as venom to be able to go out and perform. So definitely, every time I played Cleveland, I wanted to go out and perform and do my best. And it was crazy, after my second year, I ended up being in Cleveland.
Awesome. So we'll close this off with kind of one last question. Looking at the NBA now, do you have a favorite team to like win the finals? Do you think there's like a front runner this year, especially after everything that just happened with Brooklyn the past few days? Do you have like a favorite team to win the finals? And then do you have any like sleeper teams or some players that you think are slept on as a whole?
Well, I definitely think the Lakers got better. I think they're better than they were last year. I think they got younger. I don't know. I just think sometimes that LeBron is the GM over there because, a lot of people's talking about Rondo, but, Rondo's getting older, this game is all about being healthy. So for them to go get Schroeder, who was younger, You know, Dwight Howard always battled with injuries and stuff like that. So I think they did a good job by going to get the guy from the Clippers. He's younger, you know what I mean? Like, he got a lot of youth, you know, to come in, and LeBron's IQ so high for the game of basketball. He knows pretty well how to use the youth where he can be able to, you know, savior his body. That's why he's been able to last so long, because he's very good at being able to do that. So I definitely favor. I don't think it's even close where anybody can compete with the Lakers this year at all.
Okay.
And my sleeper team for this year, and I told people this all the time, you know, once they fired Doc Rivers, you know, because I'm a Sixers fan, I told them, I was like, man, if Doc Rivers goes to the 76ers, they're going to the finals. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, no offense to the coach, because I thought, you know, he was a great guy, but I just didn't think that he fit what Philadelphia was doing. He had a bunch of younger guys over there that really need somebody that's stern and that was respected. And Doc Rivers fit that role right in. And, you know, I think those younger guys over there will, you know, see more about Doc Rivers than the coach that they had. And Doc Rivers going to have a lot on his chest too. He wants to prove to the world that he's that coach. And that's why I feel like they're going to make the final. Sorry about your Celtics, but they won't make it.
Okay. I heard you. Have you seen Jaylen Brown this year so far? That's all I need to say. Dude's looking like a superstar.
Listen, I agree with both takes, honestly. I think the Sixers made good moves around the offseason, you know, surrounding Embiid and Simmons with shooters. So, I don't know. It'll be tough. It'll be interesting in the East, especially with Harden on the Nets now. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. That's not going to work. But do you have any players that you think are kind of slept on in terms of, you know, they have more of an impact than most people think?
Let me see. I mean, I love Schroeder. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Trying to think of who else is underrated. The point guard out there in Portland, I think he's been overrated. Dame Lillard, I think he's been underrated throughout his career. There's one more person that I think that he's a beast too. What is his name?
Sounds like you're describing Marcus Smart.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Definitely not talking about Marcus.
I had to try.
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now. I had a brain fart there. I can't think of his name, but those two guys right there, I think are definitely Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, I think he's definitely overrated, man, for somebody that can still average 18 points without shooting any jumpers at all. I think that says a whole lot about a player, man, if you can do that when people know you're not going to shoot a jumper and sit in the lane on you, and you still can average 17 and 11 and 8.
Yeah.
I think that's impressive.
So you think if he adds a 3, he could be up there for like one of the best players in the league?
I think that they may have to change the game up a little bit if he can hit a 3.
6'10" point guard, never been seen before outside of Magic. So
yeah, that's true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on and talking with us. We really appreciate it. We learned a lot. We had a good time. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me.